What's up, homies? Oh, hang on. I'm muted, I think. No, I'm unmuted. Can you guys see me okay? Good. Okay. It seems a little dark in here, but it looks like you can see all right. Hope everybody is well. Happy Wednesday to you. Man, can you guys believe that we're like home stretch of the year 2020 right now? That is absolutely blowing my mind. Like totally freaking me out. Um excuse me. Okay. As requested, we've now just sort of shifted into, okay, let's start talking about building the personal brand. Let's start talking about getting us some of them clients, finding out what's important to them, going through the old the big ideal stuff, and starting with some good old-fashioned content creation and whale bait kind of stuff. So with all of that said, I'm assuming y'all got the video. I'm hoping you did. I always get paranoid, that you did not. Did y'all get the video and all that kind of stuff? Good. Thank you, Martin. I'm glad you liked it. Okay. So my mission during this pre-training is to give y'all content and then just answer questions about the content as a means of really just sort of hanging out, bonding before we officially get started with the first ever round of certification training. A little nervous about it. We're all working real hard to make this very, very good. So what you're in now, technically this doesn't count. I'm just doing this because it's cool and I like hanging out with you guys and everything. But I'm telling you, the actual course material and construction is a lot's going into it. And I'm very excited about it. And I'm also nervous. Whenever you make a new thing, you're like, man, I hope they like it. But I think you will. I'm certain you will, actually. It's very, very good. So let's get jiggy with it. What y'all want to know about? Ask me anything. Let's see here. My man Martin said the Ogilvy Big Ideal is a great framework. I've worked client side and brand strategy, and simple is always better. I agree, man. I think it's hard though to figure out. It's my concern in going over it and sharing it with you guys would be like, I was worried that people wouldn't immediately formulate a big ideal and then be like, oh man, this is too hard. I used to have this framework for coming up with a big idea without the L. And I taught it in a course called Power Positioning. And I'm embarrassed to tell you, it's nowhere near as good as the Ogilvy stuff, which, no surprise really. I mean, they are Ogilvy. And it was always very, very difficult, to try to come up with that big thing. So one of the things that I was hoping that you guys would do would be to not really let it freak you out and not try to get it perfect, and understand that the big ideal isn't something that you lead with, something that you say, something that you go to the market and say, here's me. It's something that's really more geared to help act as a guideline for everything that you're putting out content wise. And of course, all the content is used to attract whales and so forth and bring them into what I like to call the vortex. Okay, I'm not getting any questions, which makes me like you not want to just ramble at you. It's kind of weird. Okay, good. Thank you all for asking me some questions. I got one from a man, Luis Gomez. Hey, Frank, super stoked to be here. When you say go live on Facebook, is it from the fan page or personal page? You always want to go from a fan page. And the reason why is because a personal page won't allow you to store the viewers of your content in a custom audience. So you need to have a business page on your Facebooks. And I don't think you have to have a business Instagram account. I need to double check that before we get into like advertising and stuff. And the reason you want the business page or fan page or, however you want to call it, isn't to get fans and stuff. I think I told you guys about like the great fan versus audience discovery, but I will in a minute again if I haven't. The purpose of that is so you can start storing the audiences. So I, discovered intent-based branding the proper way to do it, and it always evolves, by the way. But I discovered the proper way to do it last December 1st. And I was just doing some analysis. And if I've already told y'all this, forgive me, but I was doing some analysis a couple weeks ago, and I went back to see where I was at January 1st of this year in terms of fans and followers and audience size. My audience size was like really small because I hadn't been creating very much content, and my fans and followers were like 227,000 people or something. And I don't know how I got that many fans and followers, other than probably just having been on Facebook like forever, because I didn't really use it, you know. But this year, did a lot of Facebook stuff, you know, going to put out a fair amount of content. The fans grew by a whopping 10,000 fans, followers, whatever you want to call it, nothing. But the audiences, the people who consume the content, between two separate accounts that I've got, 740,000. And so that's the power of an audience, which is now like why when I go live or whatever. And by the way, the lives aren't like, you know, it's not a one-trick pony thing. I just like doing it because now I have these audiences. Facebook shows my stuff to people and I don't have to pay for it very much. So now when I go live, even though the fan base hasn't grown significantly, I'll get a lot of views over like usually a 48-hour period on my stuff, which is cool because it turns into money, which is good because I'm following the framework I'll share with y'all. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, cool. You guys do have questions. Okay. Joshua Johnson says, I'm struggling with the world would be a better place versus my market would be a better place. Example, I believe the world would be a better place if people laughed more and worked harder, is what I wrote. Sounds good to me, right? But you might want to examine what the net effect of their working harder is, you know. So the net effect of everything I do is more profit in the business, right? And the reduction of stress and overwhelm, which was why I was able to come up with the big ideal, which who knows if it's even the right one. Like there is no grading system for it, you know, I believe the world would be a better place if every business was profitable and fun. So I would want to know like what's going through, like who you're serving and what are they dealing with and what the net effect of working harder and laughing more is. Let's see, my man Martin Diehouse says the thinking and planning is the hard bit. It takes time, but the excommunication, I can't read today. The execution and communication of the ideal needs to be simple. It does, but remember, we don't go out. Guys, I'm not really this red. I see myself on the monitor. I got this web camera that makes it look like I'm purple. I always want to go and have my blood pressure taken after I get on camera on this particular webcam. I really should cut out the sodium. But I think I'm okay. I think it's just this weird thing. We don't state the big ideal in the marketing. I mean, you can or whatever, but that's not really the purpose of it. Again, it's to sort of act as a lighthouse for you when you are creating content and when you are basically conducting yourself in the marketplace. And so like in that video that I made for you, I was giving you those examples of where, you know, I'm trying to make this fun because my big ideal is I believe the world would be a better place if all businesses were profitable and fun, right? So fun is a real big part of my big ideal. So therefore that acts as a navigator for me into how to present the content, you know, and what to say and how to say it and all of that stuff. I think you get it. Okay. My man, Terry Rossi says, didn't freak me out, but it wasn't really clear on how the big ideal fit into the two circles. How did the big ideal fit into the middle? The big ideal is essentially the solution, right? So you got problem, you got the thing that you can do. The big ideal is essentially a statement encompassing a unique way and outcome that in an ideal situation, your solution would have on the world or marketplace or whatever target that you're specifying, you know. But you're right, dude. It's cerebral, you know. It's not paint by number stuff, which incidentally, if anyone is like all hosed up on the big ideal, which is normal, by the way, don't worry about it. You can just like start putting out whale bait content, which we'll discuss later, and start just thinking about, okay, what do I want them to think about me? How do I want them to feel about me? And then that big ideal stuff will probably come to you. I find that with really, really heady stuff like that, if that's the right word, the harder you try to figure it out, the more evasive it is and the more elusive it is, you know, which is why like this is my number one copywriting tool right here. You know, like if I sit down and try to write a sales letter at the computer, then it's going to be horrible and it's going to be a nightmare. But if I walk away from it, put some headphones in, sit out on the balcony, chill out, go for a walk, whatever, stew on it for a little while, I'll get an idea and I can just put some notes in this guy. I sent you guys these things. I wonder if you guys are getting them yet. Actually, I didn't do it. Tyler did it. Tyler and Aaron did it because they're responsible adults. I would get lost on the way to FedEx. But it is tough, man. All this stuff, like all that cerebral stuff is kind of a business. Okay, let's see here. The lovely and talented Kelly Jefferson said, it totally resonated with me. One of my big takeaways is I've decided I will no longer work with the startups. You have to have a business IG account if you want to have the analytics option. I figured that was it. Thank you. Yeah, working with startups is terrible. I'm making another webinar that sells the certification training because as you'll see in this class, the more content you put out, the more money that you will get, you know? So I'm making it, and I've got this slide that I made that I think I took out, but in reflection of thinking about like what is available. Oh, I did. I totally deleted the slide, but I have it by memory. And thinking of what's available to the small business universe, right? First of all, there's really only 3 levels of business if you really want to simplify it. There's the startup, there's the giant company, and then there's the successful owner-operated business. And kind of, there ain't any other kinds than that, really, you know, as a general rule. I mean, I guess if we wanted to get nitpicky about it, we could, but it's kind of like, those are the only 3. If you go and look at what's available in the marketplace, now I wish I hadn't deleted that dang slide. There is the following, right? In terms of how to grow your business. There is get rich quick stuff. There is how to get started stuff. There is tactical stuff like how to do a blog post, how to set up a Facebook ad, etc. And there is lever pulling stuff, which is I will do this for you. I will create your website for you. I will build a funnel for you. And there is management and administration and like IT stuff. All right. So the first batch of stuff that I mentioned, how to get started, get rich quick, tactical stuff, and to a degree, lever pulling, almost exclusively for the startup market, right? And then the management stuff and administrative stuff and IT consulting and stuff is almost exclusively for the big ass companies. But if you look at what's available, or if you put yourself in the shoes of the successful owner operated business, they don't really want any of that stuff. And here's why. Number one, they've already gotten started. They're a successful business, right? And I'll define that as like between 500,000 and 5 million in sales. You know, so, and again, it's a vast generalization, but you know, you're doing between $500,000 and $5 million bucks. Chances are it's an owner-operated company, and clearly it's successful, right? So they don't want get rich quick. They're already doing pretty good, so they're not going to buy the, you know, here's my amazing funnel system that generated an extra $5,000 a month. They don't want that. They kind of know all the tactical stuff, you know. They like, you're not going to blow them away by going, there's a thing called an autoresponder. I mean, some of them, yeah, but generally speaking, not. They're not quite big enough to need like the hardcore Accenture Bain management and strategy stuff. A lot of them aren't big enough to need like the heavy duty IT stuff. So all they really want is to make more freaking money and get rid of the stuff that sucks. And there's just nothing out there for them. There's some leadership stuff. There's the traction guy, Gino Wickman or whatever, who I think is really good, or who I hear is really good. But again, that's more systems and processes, So it's a very, very underserved market. And I think the reason, and I know I'm like off on a tangent right now, I think the reason that so many of us, myself included, have fallen into the let's work with startups trap is because we were once startups. And so we're just emulating what we experienced. Like, we bought startup-y stuff and it helped us. And we're like, oh, okay, well, this is what you have to do. But in reality, there's this whole ocean of businesses that are largely ignored. Well, they're not necessarily ignored. They're just being offered stuff that they don't particularly want. In a real common situation, and some of you guys, I know some of you all have experienced this in conversations with you. You'll have a business that'll hit its first milestone, like it'll get up to $1 million a year in revenue. And then the owner of that business and the operator of that business will start working a lot harder. And they're like, okay, I'm gonna, let's scale this sucker up, right? And bring it up to 10 or 20 million. And they'll like start working 5 times harder, but the revenue won't increase proportionally. So generally speaking, what you have is this vast blue ocean of people who have the means to pay you to give them what they want. And they have really serious problems in the sense that they're very far from where they want to be. And they're generally working harder than they've ever worked. And it's now getting to be like a diminishing return situation. And they ain't even having no fun. So you're right, Miss Jefferson. It is a good call. Well played. Joshua Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, says, I'm focusing my consulting on sales teams. I'm not sure how to get my 3 pillars under that statement. Oh, let's see what the statement was. Oh, if the world would be a better place if people laughed more and worked harder. Okay, so yeah, that probably needs a lot of work, right? Because salespeople just want to make more money, and they probably want to do so and face less rejection and have more fun and have less stress in their lives and have more consistency. So it's everything that we do is about what they want. And we need to always be thinking of, how does the net effect of what I'm doing translate to the single most important thing in the world, which is what they want, what the client wants, And so I've never been on a sales team. Well, I was a long time ago. I was a telemarketer and I was like 18 or something. Don't really remember much of that. But I don't have a lot of knowledge in that field, so I'm not sure what they want, but my guess would be they want consistency. They want a higher close rate, and they want to enjoy themselves more. Okay. So let's see. Man, see, I'm already thinking of content for this stuff. Consistency would be, here's how to increase your pipeline. Decreasing rejection would be, here's how to filter out leads to make sure you're only talking to the right people. Here's how to pre-sell people before they ever talk to you. Dude, there's all kinds of fun stuff. And yes, Samuel, this is in fact just the tip of the iceberg of the program. This really doesn't count. This, like, what we're doing right now isn't the actual program. I'm just like, hey man, you guys are cool enough to go ahead and enroll early. Let's do some groundwork, and sort of get stuff going and see if we can hit the ground running in January. Why not? So yeah, we got like a whole, this going to get more labor intensive, incidentally, for y'all come January, but it won't be unpleasant, I promise. Okay, Venu says, would you consider posting articles on LinkedIn as well as Facebook as well, babe? Absolutely. Yeah, I don't use LinkedIn because I don't know how, and because I get such good luck with Facebook that I am just focusing on Facebook. And there's 2 ways to look at that behavior. Like my teacher, Dan Kennedy, would say, you're dumb because and he wouldn't say that to you, he'd say it to me. He would say, Frank, you're stupid because you're relying entirely too much on one source of media. And then the other side of that coin is the side of essentialism and the side of 80-20, which is strip away everything except what is absolutely essential and works best and focus a lot on that, which is typically my approach when my mind is working properly and I'm following my own advice, you know. But yeah, if you're good at LinkedIn, then post it on LinkedIn for sure. Let's see. Samuel says, how do we know what content to come up with that will attract the whale? Okay, so what I'm going to do for you guys, and this will be for the actual class itself, not during pre-training. I'm 90% sure I'll do this. I just need to make sure I can legally do it. But I think if I just give it to you and it was never mentioned in the sales process, then I can do this. I'm going to just build content for you because there's stuff that I've created that is extremely appealing to whales. If you were to have a really bad case of insomnia and go to my podcast, and if you can figure out how to go all the way back to the first couple of episodes, things like best payday, best process, best buyer, and best bait, those exercises, all designed for whale bait. Things that are largely strategic and less tactical are typically going to be whale bait. Essentially, what you do is you identify the frustrations and aspirations of the whale, and you speak to that, and they're entirely different. So I'll give you some stuff. I'm 99% sure I'm allowed to do this. I'm just trying to make it to where this cannot possibly be construed as a business opportunity, what you're in right now. So that's why I need to make sure that I can give it to you. If I don't sell it to you, I'm pretty sure it's not. But yeah, I'll show you what to say basically. And if I can, I'll give you some white labeled stuff to use in your content. It is much simpler than beginner stuff. Everything about the owner-operated successful business is easier than the startup. And I've worked with one big company, but I worked with the owner-operators of it. And they were easy to deal with. But I'm pretty sure big corporations are a major pain in the ass. So the startup, though, I can tell you, the minnows are 1,000 times harder to deal with. Okay. My man Terry says, recorded a podcast, Facebook Live, talking about the 80-20 exercise. The call to action was asking them to go to an on-demand training, showing them how I use the exercise and showing them my list and how I'm going to use it in my business. The question, how do you think I should do the on-demand training? Simple opt-in with white slide type video? Yep. Indeed, I do, sir. For me, every single time that I have tested me on camera, whether it's fancy or just like this versus, just words on the screen win, so, damn it, whatever. It's, I would do words on screen. It's, I think, more engaging for the viewer as well. Okay. John Wooden says, Frank, what frame for content do you recommend for someone who's a consultant, positioning as expert, or come on this journey as I learn all these cool hacks? Neither. It is, I can help you and I'm helping you now, right? So everything that you do as someone who's doing SANDOR or really any sort of consultative work, always your positioning is demonstrate you can help by helping. And then around that, you would put a frame of either being fun or being contrarian or being very scholarly, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the single most important thing, it doesn't matter, it's your personal preference, but I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. The most important thing is that you demonstrate you can help them by helping them, because that's all they care about at the end of the day is them. Like I just happen to like to have a good time, and I like to be inappropriate and be a knucklehead and laugh and joke. And, I still think Beavis and Butthead is hilarious. You know what I mean? I watched Heckle and Jekyll with my children, and I still think that stuff is funny. So it's just my personality. So you always fit it to your own personality. And says, hi, this was very useful. And of course, not thought as making something perfect, which does not exist anyway. For me, at least, it helped to get the whales into perspective. Right now, the big ideal is hovering around which kind of helped me refine niching down the target I wanted and come up with the big ideal in process. Life would be better if you grew its meaningfulness organically or thereabouts. I don't know. I think it's okay, but I don't know who you're talking to and what the end result is, you know? So without that, I really can't give a lot of guidance there. She says, with a new site I'm slapping together, I just got meaningfulness.life. That's pretty good. I realize I'm focusing more and more towards companies which are in the ecological transition. Interesting. Cool. Okay. Let's see. All right, now John Wooden just said a new consultant. Oh, got it. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Okay. Mark says, what are the social media platforms you would start with? Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or others? Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, I just saw this. Dang it, I should have like saved it. You know, I literally just imagined myself clipping a web page and saving it. That's the dumbest thing ever. But saw something somewhere about Facebook being shifting more to B2B, which is perfect, right? Like this is great because we're B2B. So more and more businesses and more people are using Facebook for B2B conversations, which is fantastic. So Facebook for sure. And Instagram and Facebook to me are the same because they're owned by the same platform. So I lock them in as the same. I will show you how to use YouTube as well during our class. YouTube's got some pretty cool stuff. It is can be a little bit more expensive, however. Okay. Joshua Johnson says his clients are SaaS companies looking to improve their sales team performance. When I think work harder, I mean focus. Well, there you go. I can totally agree with your ideal, but I don't want to just straight up copy yours. Nobody's going to know because we don't go to the market and like use it as a tagline. It's just something that we use to guide the tone of our content, you know, and the way we present ourselves. That's all. Okay, so John says, how do newbies attract whales? The same way anybody would attract whales. You put out whale bait. So whale bait is defined as content that is specifically addressing the needs of the whale. And it is different, but it's not necessarily presented differently. So a video with you, you know, holding up the phone, talking to it like this, talking about how to grow an email list from scratch is minnow bait, a video of you, same outfit, talking about how to identify the single biggest driver of revenue in your company and focus on that is whale bait. The only thing that's different about that content is what you're saying, you know, so there isn't any other like stuff you've got to do necessarily, you know. Okay, let's see here. All right. Aaron says, what are the industries you tend to work with? What was the one that surprised you the most with the results you were able to give them? I've had a couple that really stand out. So the New Zealand version of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which I don't know why I'm blanking on that. The guy's name's Dave. He's super cool. We were able to get them a pretty good lift, and I can't remember what it was. A couple $100,000 at least in revenue, probably more. And literally our main thing was mail the list more, which is crazy. But, you know, they'd been in business forever and they had all these customers that they just never emailed. And we just started putting together these campaigns that would be like, hey, you got any garbage you need picked up? Because that's what they did. You know, you have a bunch of crap in the yard or whatever, and they'll go get it and haul it off. So we did that. And then towards the end of the program that we were working with together, we started on driving more traffic to them as well. I've got a tax attorney that's a current client, and it's not a particularly exotic or weird industry or anything, but he pulled in an extra $900,000 this year. It was pretty good. We started working together late last year. I think I'm blanking. Yeah, I think it was his last meeting. It was his final meeting, this past meeting. I never ask anybody to renew. I leave that to my team. So we'll see if he does. I hope he does. I like him. But he was telling me he was up $900,000. And that is excluding cutting out unnecessary spend, by the way. So that's another weird one. Had a dentist that didn't do dentistry, but instead did some kind of mandibular, I can't, sciencey stuff that cured chronic migraines. It crushed with that guy. Print ads, crazy, and he would do so well with social media, but he had tried it once and it didn't work. And so he was like sore off of it forever. Like, come on, dude, you do so good, but whatever. There's only so much you can do. But I've had a lot of them, like all kinds of different industries, chiropractors, dentists, sleep apnea dentists, did real well with him, grew sales, but also turned them recurring. That was cool for him. So this model really is applicable to anything. It's not limited to info or coaches or internet marketers or whatever. They're all the same to me. A business is nothing other than a process that turns a stranger into a customer. And the thing being sold is simply what is handed to the customer in exchange for the money generated from the process itself. And a business process is just made up of a bunch of little parts, and once you understand how the parts fit together, then when you're using SANDOR, you can see, oh, this part works real good. Let's pour gas on that one, or this part's tore up. Let's fix it, Let's see. Yeah. Okay. That was a long answer, Aaron. Sorry, dude. That's my second giant iced tea for the day. It says no sugar, but it's really sweet. I had 2 of the stevia things put in there, but I'm not sure I'm believing in no sugar. I think I'm consuming like 75 grams of sugar in this tea right now. Okay, so my man Scott Duff says, when doing the lives, is it best to leave them with a hook to get them on the next live, or bring everything to a final on each live? Bring everything to a final. And I'm never concerned with, I don't mean this disrespectfully to the audience that is watching the stuff live. I'm never worried about the in the moment for the live. The reason I go live is I'm creating something that more people are going to see over the next 48 hours than who are watching it now. And if it gets some traction, I can do 2 things. I can run it as an ad, and I can retarget the people who watched it. So it's never, that's why, like, if people do this stuff and they go live and they're like, there were 5 people on, this is horrible. It's actually not horrible. It doesn't matter, because now you have content that you have produced, and for like $20, you can put it out there to a group of people, and it won't necessarily give you any sort of tangible result, but you can get data from that and be like, oh, based on how much it costs to have someone complete, 50%, 25%, 100% of the video, you can now get data in terms of whether or not you're saying the right stuff to the market. And if you are, then you keep running that content, and that content's following the right frameworks, and we'll discuss that later. And that makes an offer, and that will drive people into your sales process. But you'll also be building an audience, which you can then retarget with direct response stuff. So the biggest reason behind going live, and I'm doing this from the perspective of, if you have 0 fans or followers and are starting the page today, the biggest reason behind going live is because you can't overthink it. Like if you're going to go, okay, I'm going to make 10 content videos tomorrow or next week or whatever, and I'm going to call a video person, your brain's going to go into totally different mode of like, well, I got to pick the right outfits. I got to script them out. I got to know what to say. But if you're like, okay, shit, man, I got to go home in a little bit, but I'm going to go live here soon. I think I'm just going to post something and then start talking. Now you've made content. And if the content sucks, you can just delete it. But a lot of times it doesn't suck, because you start getting in the groove of it, and you can edit it and all this kind of stuff. So that's like the big reason for going live here. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Now, it says in the comments that I told Samuel. Oh, that's Tyler. Okay, I was like, I'm not actually typing anything in the comments, so it must be one of our homies. That's my main man, Tyler. Okay, David White says, speaking of how to do heavy cerebral, big ideal brain stuff like this that's super creative, on my podcast, I interviewed a Harvard professor who's a genius, perfectly spelled with a J, well done, sir, about how to think this kind of stuff. His name is Dr. Srini Pillay. Highly recommended you watch some of his stuff. I think it helped to get your head around this. Sweet. All right, y'all see that in the comments there? SRINIPILLAY. Okay. Scott says, as for naming our consulting business, should we include our name or go the other way, i.e. Alpha Consulting? Whatever you want to do. I just use my name, you know. This business is one where you can, if you want to, and I've never personally done this, conceivably build like a giant freaking organization, because you've seen the numbers in B2B consulting. You know, it is literally billions, and they're all doing this management stuff that clearly people want because they're buying it, but our target, I don't think, wants it. You know, you could go that way, or you could just be a solo operator. It's extremely high margin and kind of chill and, you know, make a couple $1,000,000 and enjoy your life. Either one of those, it's perfectly suitable just to use your name. Case in point being the late Ogilvy himself. Business is still around. It's still called Ogilvy. He did. Okay, let's see. My man, Lloyd Hale says, can you go over another business you've consulted? It seems like you solve the problem by telling your client the easiest, most effective step they can take to get the big result. It's like you're balancing how hard the action is compared to the potential result. Am I on the right track? Kind of. It's whatever they can do now that's going to get them closest. It might not necessarily be the easiest, but it is what's going to provide the biggest impact now, you know? And so, yeah, I think that's essentially the answer, but I would leave out easiest because it's not always easy, you know? Actually, I can't really substantiate that statement. I'm trying to think of a time in which I advise someone to do something difficult. Yeah, actually, I've got one client. He lives in Mexico City. Dude's got it made. So great. Just millions of people love this guy. He's personal development, mainly for women. He's a single dude, relatively good-looking guy too. And he's like, should I start making stuff for men? I'm like, what are you, an idiot? No, you've got it made. You've got like millions of women that love you and they pay you. You know, what are you thinking? But like, we've now gotten to the stage where he's got to build some automation. You know, he just has to, or else he can't scale. He's going to constantly be in a state of reaction. So him doing that is relatively hard, but not really, because I just referred him to a company called Sixth Division, and they're going to build it for him, which is another reason why you want to work with that successful owner-operated group. You know, the business is already generating revenue, because you can say, okay, here's what you need. And incidentally, I can give you guys frameworks for all of this stuff. I've outlined 25 frameworks to give you during this training. In fact, you can say, here's the framework, here's the blueprint of the system you need. And they can actually afford to get someone to automate it for them, you know, which is great. Totally different from a startup where they, well, how do I do it? I can't figure it out. You know, the successful person's like, okay, who do I call? This person. Okay, great. And they call them and it's handled and it's wonderful. Okay. Hopefully I answered you properly there, Lloyd. Okay, my man Terry says, I'm an IT provider and MSP or managed service provider. There are like 30,000 of them in the US and 50,000 in the world. 95% of them are struggling to grow over $1 million in revenue. I've grown to close to 10 million and want to focus on helping those struggling to scale their business. Thought on this as a market to start with. Dude, it's dangerous. If the overwhelming majority of them are not yet at 1 million, now if they're like in the 700 range and they're pretty close to 1 million, it's okay. But if the overwhelming majority of them are struggling and they don't have any money, it's going to suck. So what may or may not have occurred to you is that you have very successfully grown a like hard business, you know, and in a very competitive environment, and having to sell to people who might not even be that fun to sell to. I'm not talking about your fellow MSPs. I'm talking about the end user who buys your stuff. So what you know is very, 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 very valuable and very powerful. And could probably be 20 times more powerful and valuable with a different target. And this is me making a lot of assumptions on MSPs. The thing that weirds me out, there's two things. Number one, there's only 50,000 of them in the world. And number two, if 95% of them aren't over 1 million, then that means that there's what? Well, 10%, that would be 5. So there's like 2,500 viable prospects in that whole haystack. So it's not a big haystack to begin with. And now we got to find little needles in there. Okay. My man, Martin Diehouse says, questions. But man, you guys, I was like, hey, y'all ask some questions. Y'all have really stepped up with the questions now. I got 36 more to scroll down here through. Martin says, what challenges have you faced when being yourself authentic when creating content? None. 2, have you ever felt pressure to communicate in a certain way or style? Only if I'm on someone else's platform or someone else's stage. So if it's just me and it's my crowd, then I can pretty much be as big of a knucklehead as I want, you know, and be as inappropriate as I want, even though I've toned that down a little bit, and have fun and joke around and stuff. When I teach it, like traffic and conversion, for example, I got to tone it down a little bit, you know. When I would speak on Grant's stage, tone it down a little bit, even though he's like worse than me, but still they're very corporate-y over there and stuff. So only in that regard. Let's see here. Where'd I go? Okay. Number 3, do you have a system to keep track of all the content you create? Yes, I'll share that with you. Number 4, on the Venn diagram in the video, you have stuff your market hates and stuff your market likes. Did you come to those outputs by seeing what the market responds to? Or did you speak to clients face-to-face directly? Both. Yeah, because I've been serving the same market for 20 years. So it's like I'm telepathically connected to them at this point, you know. But both. Like, it's pretty simple, you know, if you just go and look at social media and stuff and read what people write and look at posts under ads, and you do have to filter out that, you know, it doesn't matter what the ad is. It can be like free puppies plus $1 million plus the cure for world hunger. All can be yours if you just accept this money from us. You know, you'll still have people going, screw you, you suck. So you kind of have to take what you see there with a grain of salt, but it came from just being observant, you know. Let's see here. Kyle says, have you worked with clients that are looking to sell or retire from their business? Yes. One of my clients, actually, his nickname is Nate Dog. He and his partner, whose name is Dragon, like actual name is Dragon. Huh? He wins forever. They just sold their property management company, I think for like 14 million, I want to say. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't help them at all. I helped them like do some stuff to grow it, but I was not of any benefit to them in helping it because I don't know how to do that. And I had another client who wanted to sell, but then ended up keeping her business. God, I'm blanking on her. Super fun Canadian lady, Rebecca Mountain's her name. She had an agency. She was going to sell it, almost sold it, then kept it. And then just switched all the clients from lever pulling, which is agency work, to consulting, which is a lot more profitable. Okay. Samuel says, you hear about high ticket closer, but we don't really need to become that to make sales with this. Well, you are going to sell stuff that is high ticket and you will close sales. But I think what you're probably meaning is like that high pressure kind of scripted bullshit stuff. And no, not only do you not need to become that, I strongly advise you not to become that. My guys outsold Grant's guys, and they did not have any sales training. And we won in our agency. You know, Tyler and Ian outsold all of the hardcore freaking, you know, give me money or I'm going to kill you guys. So I don't really know what to make of that, other than in my personal experience and in my business experience and with clients that I have worked with that also sell expensive stuff, the collaborative, super friendly, super helpful method has always worked really, really good. However, there is a secret weapon, which you will come to enjoy the benefits of, which is when you put out the whale bait content, they already like you before they talk to you. So it's like you got two things going for you actually in our sales process, which again, you'll become like intimately familiar with. Number one is they already like you and they want to work with you. Number two, they jump through some hoops before they can talk to you, and you find out whether or not they're qualified to do business with you. So the only people you're talking to are people who can buy from you and who already like you. So it's totally different than the scenario where, you're doing like the high pressure strategy session style stuff or whatever. And, God bless the people who can do that stuff. I just can't. I get all nervous. I'd rather them just be like, yeah, I've got some money and I want to work with you and I got a vague idea of what you do. And then I can just do my thing and, kind of do the download process. There's a little bit more elegance to it than what I showed you in the 2 weeks ago, I think it was. But basically at the end of that if I can say so with 100% certainty, I'll tell them I'm 100% sure I can help you. And I would love to have you as a client. What information can I give you? What questions do you have for me? And they ask me, I answer them. When there comes a pause in the conversation and I sense they're all questioned out, I say, well, you want to become a client? And they say, yes, no, or let me think about it. And they say, let me think about it. I say, okay, what do you want me to do? And they'll tell me, follow up with me at this date or whatever. And if they say no, I say, okay, cool. And if they say yes, I say, all right, awesome. And that's the whole, it's like, that's the whole deal. Let's see. Voltaire says, are we going to need to invest in an app like in your simplified growth program? App is genius, by the way. No, you don't have to. This, no kidding, primary tool right here. This guy, calculator, Sharpie, fine point pen. Literally just had a private client meeting last Thursday and Friday, I think it was. So like here are the actual notes from the meeting, which are probably going to show up like backwards. But whether you're doing it on the phone, over Zoom, or whatever, generally it's something to keep notes on, and that's it. Like this is from my client, Toby. And these are her notes. Wants to talk about discount thing, sales process, flash sales. Where does sales team fit in? One click up sales order bump. Objective is 3x membership. Target is 600 members. And then she's telling me everything like this is her objective of what she wants to get out of the meeting. It took me forever to get to the target is 600 members, by the way. I'm like, how many members do we need to get? She's finally like, well, I want to double. And I'm like, how many is that? And it's like 450. I'm like, great, we'll target 600. And then maybe, if we screw it up, then we'll hit 450. And then the 80-20 on what got members, put winners first. That's my notes to myself to run her through that to find out what's been working. So in terms of a automation system, the winning processes would go first. But that's really, you'll see, I'm telling you, like once you guys see the toolkits and process maps and templates and everything, you don't need any fancy stuff. When I do the Zoom call work and it's not in person, like the scaling group, which I'm going to rename to the 8-week accelerator program, I'll do it with a small group of 5 people. It can be done one-on-one. It can be done small group. If you're just starting out, you probably would do it one-on-one. Because why wait until you have enough people to do a group? I just have one Google Doc. It's got everybody's names on it. And I just write out, and everyone can see it because I'm sharing the screen. And I'm just writing out, here's what they want. Here's what their assets are. Here are the numbers. Here's the thing I told them to do. And then I get on with them next week. Okay, here's where we were at last week. What happened? And pretty good. Pretty good. Dude, awesome. Martin, thank you for finding that. He has got the link here to the Your Next Million. So that's a classic example of of whale bait right here. I built this for the whales. I'm going to send this to all you guys in the chat. So boom, there's a chat from me. Yeah, that's a classic example of whale bait. Okay, my main man David White says, killer content this week question. If this was to be taught by us as whale bait, What would be the actual promise? What could this whole big ideal stuff actually do for 7-figure small business owner that would help them make more money without more problems? Well, the big ideal itself does nothing, but it's the content that you create, which is guided under the umbrella of the big ideal. So remember, my big ideal is the world would be a better place if all businesses were profitable and fun. So I got to make content that shows them here's how to make your business more profitable, and content that shows them here's how to get rid of overwhelm. And that content is the whale bait. And the most attractive to them, incidentally, is getting rid of overwhelm. They've heard enough, I'm going to make you money stuff. What resonates typically with our target market as SANDOR practitioners is a message like this. Hey, remember when you built your business and you started it and it was pretty fun, and then you got to like your first major milestone, like $1 million, and it was amazing. And then you started working harder and taking on more projects and hiring people. And does it seem like now you're working about 5 times harder, but you're not making 5 times the money? If it does, you're not alone. Here's some ideas on how to fix it. That is whale bait to them, right? And if you take that little piece and you compare it to everything else that the random business owner is going to hear in the marketplace, it's dramatically different, which is great, because most people are like, here's my amazing simple hack to get 1,000 Facebook followers in 2 weeks or whatever. And God bless them. That's for the startups, startups ain't going to respond to that kind of stuff. Okay, let's see here. All right. Oh, nice. Martin got my PDF too. How did you find that, dude? Genius. I'm going to type that to y'all too. Y'all probably already saw it in the comments there. Let's see. Okay. So from my man Voltaire says, how do you separate yourself from SANDOR and your ad agency and telling your clients all about the ad agency services? Because as an agency owner myself, the first thing I want to tell businesses is to optimize their advertising, optimize this and that, which gives them more stuff, which is the exact opposite of the SANDOR model. Yeah, so I no longer have an ad agency. I gave that to the lovely and talented Grant Cardone, who I adore, and may he live forever and be a billionaire. So that's all I'll say on that matter. Read into that what you will. What I found in growing that agency, which we grew it to 200 something clients pretty quickly, is that the overwhelming majority of the clients, after the click was broken, like getting the traffic to them wasn't a big deal. Like, okay, here you go. But the sales process itself was totally screwed up. So it didn't matter how much traffic we were sending them. It ultimately was not working. I think that you will find that if you switch, I'm not saying shut down your agency or anything, but if you start shifting from I'm going to pull levers for you, which is what doing ads for people essentially is, unless you're at like super high level, writing the sales letters and stuff and, scripting out the freaking TV commercial and all that stuff. And even then it's only going to pay so much, I think like the top copy people in the world make a couple $1 million a year on royalties and stuff from the actual work of writing the copy. So back to agency versus consultation. You will find that, as you probably have already noticed, that the majority of your client's problem isn't an ad problem. It's what happens after the person calls or comes into the door or lands on the page or whatever. And then if you go deeper, if you're dealing with the business that's already doing stuff, now not the startup guy, right? But the person who's doing $500,000 to $5 million or whatever, someone who's actually already got plenty of momentum, it's rarely even a conversion issue. It's like an average order value issue, or getting them to buy more frequently, or a follow-up issue, or something like really mundane. I'll tell you this happened Monday. Onboarded a new client who just emailed me her numbers. I can't wait to dig into them. She is at 7 million a year. All right, this is so great. 7 million a year, selling little physically shipped stuff to a big niche market. So it's like I just don't want to talk about my client's business, so it's nothing weird, but anyway, let's just pretend she's selling cookbooks to chefs. All right. She's not, but relatively similar. So doing $7 million a year, doing that, no order bump, no one-click upsell. If they opt in for a free recipe, it's not really recipes, but if they opt in for a free recipe, they get one email that drives them back to the Tripwire thingy, which is a discounted recipe book. So they opt in to get the free recipe. They see a sales letter that's not even really a sales letter for a very discounted recipe book. If they don't buy it, they get one email for it. And then every Friday, and by every, I mean some Fridays, they will make an offer to their email list of 500,000 people that is buried under content. All right. And so this is business. They're $7 million a year. All right. And so we've got, so if we look at this, they don't need more ads. I mean, they're getting 2-to-1 return on their ads. So why wouldn't they scale it up, But that business will double. We're going to double it by putting in an order bump, putting in a one-click upsell, putting in a follow-up sequence if people don't take the upsell, and making offers all the time, and you will find at Voltaire that that stuff moves the needle a lot more than ads. And when they get that stuff right, then the ad game for them becomes significantly skewed in the agency owner's favor, because now they're not as terrified about a high cost per acquisition of customer or whatever, because they're making a lot more money per customer, and everything's working better. So longest answer ever to the question. But I have personally netted way more money doing SANDOR stuff than agency stuff. Agency stuff, as you know, much lower profit margin. SANDOR stuff, I mean, these things cost like $35, and I go through one a quarter. So I mean, there's more to it than that, you know what I mean? But not a lot more. So it's pretty good. Lloyd Hale, I will give you nothing because I have to make the frameworks pretty. I have frameworks for my use, and my brain is not functionally up to par with most normal people. So I need to pretty them up and make them a little bit better looking, because they're, they're the ones that I use personally that aren't that as organized as what I would like them to be. Otherwise, I'd be like, yeah, dude, go ahead. Okay, my man Scott says, if we start receiving interest from our live shows, but not yet ready to bring them on as clients, how do we keep them interested until we're ready to start the consulting process? Keep showing them content, and they'll keep watching it. And you could also get them on a list, just offer them something, you know what I mean? And that way you can email them. Okay, let's see. Is it Luis or Luis Gomez? I wonder. Don't know. I'm going to say Luis because it sounds cool. Luis Gomez says, Frank, I'm currently running a Facebook ads agency for small business owners. What would you say is the best way of transitioning from done for you to consulting only? I love the idea of being the architect and not the builder. Well, one thing you can do immediately for your clients is, if you have them locally, invite them to a customer appreciation workshop or whatever, where you say, hey, I've been working with this many businesses, and I found these areas where any business can improve and dramatically increase profits. And I want to teach you this stuff because you're my clients and I appreciate you. And then you show it to them and you're like, now I've got this program, and if you would like me to help you do all this kind of stuff, I'd be delighted. If you want to set up a conversation about that, here's what to do. Real simple. And if they're not local and they're not physically near you, just do it as a webinar. Works real good. It's interesting. The last time I spoke for Grant, in an effort in one of his many efforts to see if he could make me go insane, he was like, I want you to make 3 pitches from the stage. Now, I'm kind of a rookie at marketing, but I do know that if you present 3 totally separate offers to a group of people within an hour, you're going to confuse them and you're not going to sell anything. I also know that there is no convincing Grant Cardone of anything. You just have to do it and then let it not work and then resist the urge to say, I told you so, and make fun of him about it. You know, which is easier said than done. But I go up there and he's like, I want you to sell $100,000 package and then like sell agency services and then sell some information. The $100,000 package was consulting. Highest level of interest was for the consulting. Insane. So I don't know why I brought that up other than this stuff is like pretty simple to sell. Venus says, can you elaborate for a minute about the 25 frameworks you mentioned? Do you mean these are frameworks that will help any business to improve any process area? Well, I've got a list of them because I was thinking about it today. I was like, you know, I want to make this like really cool. So deadline sequence process, deadline stack process, click sequence process, on-demand class process map, educational VSL framework, regular VSL framework, long form framework, average order value increase checklist, upsell framework, application screening framework, cart abandon sequence, escape and arrival framework, best payday, best process, best bait, post webinar process, click sequence framework, bonus stacking process, YouTube indoctrination process, IBB off the cuff and deep psyche processes, decision maker worksheet, download worksheet, 80/20 overwhelm cure, and diagnostic process map. And under the heading of diagnostic process map are all manner of processes that can be diagnosed, such as funnels, webinars, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, sales letters and email campaigns, and sales calls and lead gen funnels. So that stuff. So the idea behind all of these is, something's going off. I don't know what that was. You know, I got the Apple Watch and it just vibrated for no reason. It weirded me out. Broke my train of thought. The idea behind all of these are in the SANDOR model. As you know, we get state of objective, assets, numbers, and then we do the diagnosis. And then from the diagnosis, you prescribe the one course of action. What I want to be able to do is give you guys process maps and like flow chart, like if then things that allow you to do the diagnosis relatively easily and then arrive to what I call it internally the prescription with my clients. When you give the prescription, let's say the prescription, like my prescription for this lady is, I was just telling you about, the very first thing is we got to get you a cart abandon sequence, you know. Let's say the prescription is the cart abandon sequence. Well, here's the framework for cart abandon sequence. You know, here's how to architect it. Here's what the emails should look like and say, you know, and fill in the blank style copy and all that. So that's what I'm working on building for you guys. And I'm 99% sure I can. What I'm trying to avoid is this being technically a business opportunity. Not that there are any illegalities around selling it, but if you sell what is legally considered a business opportunity, it now becomes like a franchise where you got to do all of this paperwork stuff that I just don't want to do. But I don't think that if I give you that stuff, it is, but I need to make 100% sure. However, 99.9999% sure that I can give you this stuff because I didn't sell it to you. You already bought without ever knowing these things existed, so I can just give them to you as gifts. But anyway, them's the frameworks. That's what you get for asking. Okay, let's see here. Luis sounds cooler. Says, do you ideally stick with businesses that offer high ticket items or services? Nope. Got one that sells like a $30, I think it's less than that, entry point offer is bottle of stuff you spray on the carpet when your dog pees on the rug. It doesn't matter to me. It really, man, you guys are going to see. It's like a business is a series of processes, and the thing being sold within the context of the types of businesses that we work with, which are the successful owner-operated businesses and not like Procter & Gamble or a hospital or something, you know. So within that context, they're nothing more than a series of processes. And all processes are relatively predictable. And once you understand like all of the imaginary processes that could be deployed and that are being deployed, you can very quickly see what to bolt on, what to take away and what needs to be improved. And the improvement of processes is generally relatively simple. All of this is said under this huge umbrella that we're dealing with a specific category of business, which is the successful owner-operated business, meaning they're doing $500,000 to $10 million a year. When we get into big corporations, I don't know, never messed with them, and dealing with startups, forget about it. They don't have enough forward momentum for us to do anything with. But remember when I was telling you earlier, there's 2.71 million businesses that do $1 million plus. So I did some more research, and according to, now I forgot, it's one of the big financial firms, the number is closer. The heck was it? I want to say it was like 5 point something million, which is awesome. Okay, let's see here. My man Voltaire says, is Tyler going to do any sales training in the program? I don't plan on it, but if y'all want to talk to him, I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to y'all. He's a pretty nice fella. He's real good at it. And you know what he does? Is just super nice and answers questions. It's like, that's our method, I'm telling you, you'll see the sales process once you get the confidence that, and I think that really is a huge part of it, is the confidence that you can absolutely, without question, help the client. Once you can just do that, there really doesn't need to be any sort of magic. And I don't expect to close everybody. So we are not attached to that. We're not like, oh, how did we let that one get away? It's like, oh, that guy didn't buy. Okay, next, so that helps a lot. Voltaire says, is it necessary to niche down? Because it seems like you serve any and all businesses as long as they meet the standard requirements. So we don't necessarily need to focus on a particular vertical for this. I do not focus on a particular vertical. I would get bored. I like having like all kinds of different companies. I had a tax attorney and an interior designer sitting across from each other last week. It was great. And then next to them was a real estate investment company. And then next to them was a real estate investment training company, and so it's like, it's cool. It's fun. Otherwise it would be kind of lame. To me anyway, I would get bored. Venus says, SANDOR sounds a bit like Sandler. You may need to say something to differentiate. Sandler has a painful sales call tinge to many prospects. Yeah, there's really no need in the world for you guys, unless you want to, you're welcome to go forth and say, I am going to give upon you the SANDOR methodology, because nobody knows what that means. You're, of course, welcome to use it in any and all marketing that you want to, but the real important is you just demonstrate you can help them by actually helping them, and then get them on a call where you do a little bit more elegant version of the download that I shared with you, and say, okay, well, what do you want to do? That's kind of it. Samuel says, do you or we ever mention the word SANDOR to clients? I rarely do. No. I mean, it's not like forbidden or anything, but as I'm remembering, like, not really. No. Actually, I definitely don't, because I just had private clients in last weekend. They're like, hey, dude, what's the certification thing that you're up to? I'm like, oh, I'm certifying people on what I do with you. And they're like, really? What do you do? And I was like, oh, well, let me tell you. You know how every meeting, here's what we do? And they're like, son of a bitch. Huh, you do that? Well, yeah. Okay, let's see. All right, Ethan says, since this is termed a certification, then the frameworks will just be viewed as accompanying materials. Good. Terry says, Frank, all the frameworks, which sound great, by the way, seem to be marketing and sales related. Are all your clients looking to you for only that type of advice? They're looking for two things: how to get more money with less stuff that sucks. And generally speaking, they're doing a lot of stuff that's dumb. And by dumb, I don't mean they're dumb, but they're doing a lot of trivial things that don't move the needle, that if you can take a 30,000 foot view, notice that you could just stop doing all of that. And then there are like 2 or 3 little things that if they just did these 2 or 3 little things, their business would be great. And generally speaking, those 2 or 3 little things are something like do an order bump, or put in a one-click upsell, or have this type of follow-up system, or put in this type of deadline, or change the order form from this to this. And then once you have all of that in place, then you can start to do expansion and all kinds of other stuff. But they're coming because they want more money, but they're never coming for like, hey, show me a tactic. Give me a shiny new toy. It is universally, I am in pain because I'm working harder than ever, and I'm either making less money or I'm seeing a diminishing return on my effort, and I'm hoping you can help with that. And that's why they're coming, and it's a good position to be in, because you can typically get them out of that pain really, really fast. And that's very rewarding, to have people no longer be unhappy as a result of conversations you've had with them is a really nice thing to experience, I would say. Okay, my man Lloyd says, I can start meeting with people now, but I want to make sure I can deliver. That's why I was asking about the frameworks. Can you go over the outline of the consult to the delivery? I've heard you explain it different ways. I don't know if I understand what you mean. Go over the outline of the consult to the delivery. Yeah, I don't know what you mean, man. Clarify, foamy. Okay, so John says, just hearing that process list for some reason just gave me a huge feeling of relief. We're going to be able to offer massive value. Yes, you will be. You damn sure will be, buddy. You're going to help people a lot. And I'm telling you, that is the magic right there. It isn't like, I know what's interesting, it's easier to sell, like, hey, here's a marketing method that's unbeatable, or here's a sales technique that's great. But greatest sales technique in the world is to be really freaking good and be able to demonstrate that you're really good in advance of asking for money. And then that's like, you can walk around in pajamas like I do and, talk like a redneck and be visibly insane, and people will still work with you. Okay. Lloyd says, how do the private clients meetings work? Okay, so I'm glad that you brought this up. I've been doing some thinking, and I cannot nor will I tell you that you have to do anything a certain way. This isn't a franchise. There's nothing like that. This is you do whatever you want to do. But as I was thinking about the deliverable for this type of service, most likely what makes the most sense is the scaling group format, which I'm in my mind renaming to the 8-week accelerator program. So that program works like this. I do it in group. I don't recommend that you do it in group unless you've got a large customer base that you can just fill up a group real fast. So let's just pretend everybody's doing it one-on-one. I am going to answer your question, Lloyd, by the way. If you're doing that program, here's how it works. You put out content that gets people's interest. You offer to have a conversation with them, the download conversation, which will give a different name, but essentially you're doing the download. There's a little more structure to it than what I shared with you on the video, but that's basically that sales process. As a result of having that conversation, you're able to say to them, because during that conversation, you're already going to know how to help them. That's what's so cool about it. Like, you know what to do once you have that first initial, you haven't even taken them as a client. This is just a sales call. You already know what to do. Don't tell them what to do yet. But during that conversation, you can then say, okay, I'm 100% certain I can help you. I would love to have you as a client. What questions can I answer for you? And they'll ask you a million questions, and including how much does it cost, if they don't know already, and how does it work? So the 8-week accelerator program works like this. At the beginning, usually on the sales call, you determine the target. Let's say the target is, I want to generate 20% more per month consistently. Great. During that sales call, you also, because if you recall from how the download works, you get a pretty good idea of the assets they got going on. You get a pretty good idea of the numbers behind them. You'll probably already know the very first most obvious thing they need to do. So in week number 1, you get them on a Zoom call or on the phone. It doesn't matter, however you want to do it. I'm in groups, so I do Zoom so I can see everybody, but it's irrelevant how you deliver it. I mean, as long as you're speaking to them, it's about a 45-minute call at most. And you say, okay, here's the one thing to do this week, right? And so they go do it. And this is huge, right? Is you don't give them like 25 million things to do. So if I were doing it with the client that's at 7 million that I mentioned to you, very first thing for this person would be, what we need to do is install a cart abandonment sequence this week. So it's easy, you know, and I would like give them the framework if I had to. Here's a framework for the emails. And remember, you're already dealing with successful businesses. So it's not like they don't know how to write email. You know what I mean? So like that would be week number 1. And then you already know, because you're running SANDOR, that the next logical thing for them to do, if this lady has no order bumps, to be, okay, next week we're going to put in an order bump. And here's what the copy is going to say. And if they don't know what to use as an order bump, there's a little process for figuring out what to use as an order bump. The 3rd week, you would put in a one-click upsell. The 4th week, you would put in a downsell. You know, the 5th week, you would work on an email sequence that would drive them back to the upsells if they didn't take them during the checkout process. All right. And so there's one for each upsell. So you do one week 5, one in week 6. Week 7 and 8 would likely be spent in either an extension of doing that, because sometimes they just can't do it in 1 week, and that's fine. Or now traffic expansion, right? So that is a really, really simple deliverable that you can charge whatever you want to charge for. You know, I charge $9,800 for the 8-week program, and it's a group of 5. You know, I'm not saying that you should charge that. You charge whatever you want. I was messing around. The average secretary makes just under 40 grand, which is like 30 something $100 a month. So if you charge like 6 grand for 8 weeks, it would be less than what they would pay a secretary for 2 weeks. And on like $1 million business, which is 80 grand. Well, I'll round it up. I'll round it down for easy math. It's 80 grand a month, which is not really, it's 84, I think, but $1 million business is 80 grand a month. If the target was a 20% lift, that means you would get them $16,000 extra dollars in monthly revenue based on the work you did together over those 8 weeks, which now makes the price seem completely freaking stupid. So none of that answers Lloyd's question, but I mention it because I don't want you guys thinking, oh shit, man, I got to build these big groups and have these in-person meetings. You can deliver this any way you want, but that method that I just gave you is as rock solid and simple as they come and requires like nothing special to do, you know, and works very, very well for the client, which is the single most important part of the equation. So here's how the private client stuff works. For every year I've ever done it, except for 2020, it's been their choice of 3 2-day meetings a year. And if they need me, they can set up a time to talk to me as long as it's on a Monday. That's it. That's the whole thing. Oh, and if they need my team, like if they need to talk to Hernan or something, they can set up a time with him. For 2020, because people have scheduling issues and stuff, I've decided to hold 6 meetings in 2020. I actually like all of my clients a lot, so I've switched it to come to any or as many of the 6 meetings as you want to. I don't care. And I was going to do Zoom calls every other month that we didn't have a meeting with the clients in small group instead of the Mondays. But I don't think I'm going to, because it didn't really resonate with anyone. They didn't really get excited over that. So I'm just going to keep Mondays open for them. And most people don't take me up on Monday. So I've got 20 something clients, I guess, maybe 30 something. I should know this, but I don't. The guys in the office do. Yeah, I have smarter people than me that work for me, and they know how many clients we've got. But what was Monday? 2 days ago, I onboarded one new client, and then I talked to another one. So I had 2 phone calls on Monday. You know, it's like, it's pretty simple, you know, and this, because this level of client is dramatically different for anyone who's ever done coaching or consulting or whatever with startups. They're just so different than the lower level of business owner. They don't want stuff. They don't want info. They want insight. And they just want to, like, just tell me the button to push. I got shit to do. You know, like that's what they want, which is great. So that's how the private client group has worked. And it's always been really easy to sell, and it's pretty fun. And I like it. I was going to not do it in 2020, but I decided to do it. So it's pretty cool. Okay. Luis says, do you still have the office in San Diego? I do not. I just have this little writing studio here, and we hold our private client meetings at a hotel. I sublet that office, swear to God, dude, to a company called, is it Manscaper or Manscaped? I think you can guess what they sell. They sell an electric razor for gentlemen to shave other parts of their body that are not their beards. And that's who sublet the big ass San Diego office for me, which is just hilarious. And they're doing great, by the way. Talk about a business, you know, wow, that's something. But yeah, I don't have that anymore. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so Anne says, a previous client invites me to speak to German mid-sized businesses in January. She wants 300 words to send them to present what I'm going to speak about. After I did some intro to what SANDOR is, how would you phrase those 300 words? Thank you. Does it have to be 300? And what are you going to talk about? You know, I would find out like what you're going to talk about, and then make a little description of what it is. And what it should be is how to increase revenue while decreasing stress and overwhelm. So if you have to take 300 words to say that, then take 300 words to say that, you know. And like you might, I'm just going to pretend this is 300 words because I'm trying to calculate the amount of words I'm about to say and it's messing me up. But you might say something like, you know, Anne specializes in working with successful businesses to help them grow revenues while working less. Usually once a business reaches a certain milestone, such as its first $1 million in revenue, the owners find themselves working significantly more than they did during the startup phase, but they're not earning revenue in an amount that's proportional to how much they're working. As a matter of fact, sometimes it seems like they're working harder than ever for even less money, and fixes that problem by helping business owners identify the activities that don't make them any money, identify the activities that make the most money, and then maximize those activities. Something like that, you know? And that was me just kind of making that up. So you could probably write it better, you know, but like with all of the stuff that we do, we don't have to be fancy, you know. I don't want to oversell it and be like, this stuff sells itself, man. It's just unbelievably easy and everything's great. But there are a lot of people out there that are in a very serious state of overwhelm, and they're not happy about it. And that situation that I just described is very, very common. And they just have nobody to help them. So it's almost like, I think it was Caples. I'm getting my direct response guys confused. It's embarrassing. Whichever one was that Robert Collier, I think, said, enter the conversation in the products, in the prospect's mind, you know. That's essentially all you got to do is be like, hey, this is you. Here's some stuff that might help. Insert free, extremely valuable content here. And then be like, you know, if you want some help, I'd be delighted to help you. You could set up an appointment with me, and there you go. You know, that is essentially the sales process in like 30 seconds. Okay, I think I got everybody. Oh, Lloyd asked for sales meeting to delivery. Okay, let's see here. So Lloyd, I think you're asking me what the process is like from once they say yes to, okay, now you're officially a client. And it is very laid back. So what happens, and I'll do it for private client group. I'll do it for both. So for private client group, which is kind of ongoing, someone can join whenever, you know, it doesn't matter. They'll say yes. Rarely do they ever talk to me now. Sometimes they do, but usually it'll be Natalia or Tyler or something. And they'll be like, okay, yeah, sounds pretty good. And then they will do a download with me, and I'll tell them what to do. And then I'll say, okay, cool. So go do that, and I'll see you at our next meeting. And if you need anything, schedule an appointment on a Monday. And that's literally how it begins, you know, because this isn't a curriculum driven thing. It's not like, okay, and next week we're going to meet and we're going to talk about this. It's okay. Here's the big thing to do. Do it. And if you need any help or anything, schedule a time with me, Otherwise, I'll see you Monday. And that's literally how the entire thing works. Like, there you go. And I've had clients that would go through spells where they got to talk to me every Monday. And those are usually the ones at the lower end of the income spectrum. And I've got clients that I have spoken to twice ever that have only come to one meeting, and apparently super happy, you know? So it's all over the board. It's the weirdest thing. But our job is just to tell them the thing to do and give them like a very simple, hey, go do this. And there's no need to nag them. There isn't any sort of, you know, I'm trying to think of the word, filler stuff, like ancillary servicey stuff to make it seem like you're doing more than you are. Like, you're kind of selling this on the basis of, yeah, you're not going to do a lot of stuff. My job is to take stuff off your plate and find like the most important thing. The lady I talked to Monday, fastest implementer I've ever had, by the way. Her instructions were, she had a deadline that was ending on Monday, 13 hours from when we were talking. And my instructions were, I want you to send 4 emails today. And this is, you know, she was really nervous about emailing people. So she did. And then I said, I also want you to send me a breakdown of revenue by product so I can see which thing we should be focusing on. And she just sent it to me. So I'll look at that stuff, and then I'll ask her to schedule another appointment with me so I can tell her what to do. But that's actually the most aggressive I've ever been with a client. You know, I'm going to actually go through her stuff and now follow up with her, but only because it's just so freaking easy to get like a ridiculously huge return for her, and it's fun. It becomes like sport, you know. It's like, hell yeah, man, I want to just crush it and win, you know. So a lot of this type of work will become like a matter of pride to you, you know. You're like, okay, let's see what we can do for this one, you know. Okay, let's see. David White says, awesome work. I haven't cleared this with Tyler or Ian, but I'm making an executive decision and calling it early. You are December's employee of the month. Yes, once again. Awesome. All right, homies. Okay, I'll answer Martin's and then I'll go. Martin says, question, planning ahead for when the course starts in January, are there any other days or times we should pencil out in our diaries, or should we stick to Wednesday for now? There will be. So the team, who are infinitely smarter than me at this sort of thing, have devised some onboarding system and group, I guess, division system to help you get a date, not a date, but days and times that work for you in terms of the small group and the one-on-one calls. And they'll be reaching out to you prior to January 6th and helping you set up that stuff based on your convenience. So I'm not saying we can meet everyone's exact time, but we've got multiple dates and times that are available, and that's their job, is to help you be like, oh, okay, I'm going to be with this instructor, and this is a good day for me, and perfect. So you ain't got to worry about nothing. Okay, y'all, I'll talk to you next week. Take it easy. Have a good Wednesday. It's getting late. Yeah, I think I'll go home early today. It's almost 6 o'clock. Take it easy, Kelly. I still have your book, man. And you've been mailed one of these, and I didn't include Acid for the Children, but I haven't forgotten about you. I do actually have it for you. I think you'll like it. It was a good one. Okay, y'all, take it easy.